Arsen Kashian. I'm the head buyer here at the Boulder Bookstore, and we're doing another edition of Inside the Boulder Bookstore. And today we've got Rob Pine with us. Rob is the sales rep for Ingram Publisher Services. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
So, Ingram is one of the major players in book selling, but to the average person out there who's not in the book industry, they might not know the Ingram name. They don't, it's not Random House, it's not HarperCollins or Simon & Schuster. So, who is Ingram? Why are they a major player? And what do you do for them?
So, Ingram is a very major player. They are most known in the industry as a wholesaler. They started off as an educational wholesaler selling books into schools and libraries in Tennessee specifically. It's owned by the Ingram family, so it's family run. And then they've grown into really the only book wholesaler in the country.
Yeah, that's it. We used to have 6 or 7. We used to have Partners West on the West Coast. Baker and Taylor was another national one. We had Books West here in Boulder. We've gone from like 7 wholesalers that we used to buy books from 20 years ago to 1.
Yeah, and I think it's an early. There's been talk in the industry of consolidation amongst publishers. It was happening in the wholesale world much sooner. That's you'd have small regional wholesalers, and just the scale of things, I guess, they couldn't survive. So Ingram now is you can order books from any publisher basically from them at a slightly lower price than ordering directly from the publisher. The part that I represent is even probably lesser known. They also have a side where they contract with mostly small independent publishers to do warehousing, invoicing, sales, where you as a bookstore though can go and you're getting the same price and deal as if you're ordering directly from that publisher.
So, yeah, they've started kind of this conglomeration of publishers, and a lot of them are small publishers that no one would hear of. But you do have a couple very storied publishers. I wanted to talk a little bit, the headliner, I think, and it's usually the top one in the catalog, is Grove Atlantic. And that's a big, it's not a big press, it's a small press that has a big footprint in the book industry. And I was on their website, and I was looking, they did The Sympathizer. They did Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan that's come out recently. They published Jim Harrison. But Lily King is another person who's had some real success lately. But I looked at their list by author, and I just saw that under the G's, for instance, this is how varied they are, was Roxane Gay, Jean Genet, and Allen Ginsberg. So tell us a little bit about Grove Atlantic and what your experience has been with them.
They are, as you said, definitely our headline publisher. They're storied, going all the way back to, I think they were founded in the late 50s, early 60s, became famous for publishing things that other people wouldn't publish, going to court to get things published that otherwise would have been censored. And that's I think that's a line that runs straight through with them, is they're always kind of looking for books that maybe wouldn't get a voice somewhere else, but they are also, willing to outbid Random House for something that they really fall in love with. Morgan Entrekin is the publisher, and I think has an amazing eye, and you can be guaranteed almost that once a year they're going to have something that's a bestseller.
Morgan is one of the great characters in publishing. Morgan always threw the best party at Book Expo, which is now extinct after the pandemic, Book Expo, but either was it a great restaurant. I've met Leif Enger at one of these parties who wrote Peace Like a River, Mark Bowden who wrote Black Hawk Down. So he brings in a bunch of authors. And more recently, the parties were at an apartment in New York of John Freeman's, and it was just so much fun. You would all the booksellers were there. It was the party to be at, and I got a real education just from other booksellers at those parties. But then you meet all these authors, all this interaction, this sense of community, and so as a sales rep, do they try to are you able to partake in that sense of community, or has that sense of community helped you sell their books because everybody knows who these people are?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and again, it's something I think that Grove has understood for a long time, of getting to know the individual booksellers, introducing their authors to the individual booksellers, so that when I come in as a rep, you quite often already know the book.
Well, a lot of the books they make into bestseller. You maybe don't know these people, and then like The Sympathizer seemingly came out of nowhere, won the Pulitzer Prize. It was an amazing book, but people weren't fighting to publish that. I wouldn't think.
Right.
But you do have a book this year where it's a huge headliner. Abraham Verghese's new book, who wrote Cutting for Stone. Tell us a little bit about that book and what that's been like trying to sell that book in, because everybody must welcome you with open arms this season.
Well, yeah. So again, it's one of those books where it's not requiring a lot of sales on my part, but it's also, I think, symbolic of kind of thing that Grove does. So it's another 800-page novel that based quite a bit on Verghese's mother's life in a city in southern India. It feels like it's going to be a bestseller, based on, again, an impressive number of people have read the 800 pages already, and they're excited by it, which is always, that's fun to go to start.
All right, and so you represent also, but hundreds probably of smaller presses. Do you have a few hidden gems on this list that you think of? Is there anything that you're excited about from one of these real small publishers?
I don't know if this qualifies as a small publisher. Two of the books I'm most excited by are actually from one publisher that is newly launched, is technically small, but it's Spiegel and Grau, which was an imprint of Random House. They then have gone off on their own, so I don't know quite how they... But, it's small crew, pretty limited list. They have a novel called Go as a River that's set in Colorado. This is feeling to me like a book that is already kind of a bestseller in Colorado, just based on the orders people are getting, the buzz. I've heard from another buyer that the author's babysitter, a woman who babysat for the author's kids, was excited about this book, which is always like an early sign. Like when all these people are excited to hear the book's coming, this feels to me like definitely in Colorado. And having read it, it's the type of book that I think it could grow out of here and become a national bestseller. That's one book. And then the other book that they have on their list is this book called Notes on Complexity, which is it's a little bit difficult to explain, but there's a scientific theory, complexity theory, which is finally sort of linking together quantum theory, chaos theory, philosophers' ideas of consciousness. It sounds like it could be finally the theory that is sort of unifying what we know about the universe, which is I find it to be an incredible read. We'll see.
All right, yeah. I mean, I've got a couple books I'm excited about on the list. I was excited. Well, the one I'm most excited about is An Admirable Point, which is actually a book about the history of the exclamation point. Now, people who know me, I am very anti-exclamation point, but it does turn out that there are real camps around the exclamation point.
Yes, who knew?
And where do you fall on the exclamation point spectrum?
I believe one needs to be very conscious of its use. Although I do fall into the trap of, if I'm corresponding with somebody who's an exclamation point user, I find myself over exclaiming. I want to meet their excitement.
On the very first book, like Happy Valentine's Day, period, on the card. So maybe I could learn something from this book. The other one I'm excited about is Spring Rain, which is the guy who did How to Catch a Mole. And these are like little nature books, but I feel like people are starting to catch on to this author.
Yeah, he's from the UK. He spent his life as a gardener. His first book was about being a mole catcher, which feels like a thing that's only really in the UK. I'm sure there are mole catchers here, but you know, he had a career catching moles, and at a certain point in his life decided he no longer wanted to kill all the moles.
It sounds like a sport that would have been on the early days of cable sports, you know, like mole catching. So the last thing I want to ask you about before we wrap up is you're my rep who's the only other rep who's really a big tennis fan.
Yes.
So who was your favorite player growing up?
So I have to admit, I have come lately to tennis.
Okay.
Through my wife. My wife was the one who. But I'm trying to think. I really started watching the game in the age of Federer and Nadal.
Okay, so more recently.
The more recent thing.
And who did you like of those guys the best?
Nadal, of course. Although, so here, I love Nadal's personality. I admire Federer's game a little more.
Mm-hmm.
He's just so smooth and it seems so effortless for him. Whereas Nadal is that guy who, like, it seems like it's a struggle. Every point is a struggle.
Nadal is like more like life for everybody else.
Yeah,
like
yes,
Federer
yes,
is like a Greek god who has come down. So what? Are you ever going to get to one of these major tournaments like Wimbledon or the French Open or anything? You have any plans?
It is a dream. The dream trip for my wife and I is to go to the French Open and then travel around Europe a little bit and then go to Wimbledon.
There must be like a French author on the Grove list that you could visit and then somehow write it off, right?
I don't know if I could get away with that or not.
All right,
But it's an idea.
Thanks so much for being here, Rob. So I'm Arsen once again, and thank you for watching our YouTube channel. And if you like what you see and you want to find out more about the Boulder Bookstore, please subscribe.